Well, the Texans released Aaron Colvin, and I've seen a lot of comments on videos of you guys wanting me to talk about this. So let's talk about whether or not the Cincinnati Bengals should claim or put in a waiver claim for cornerback Aaron Colvin on this episode of New Stripe City. Welcome to New Stripe City, a YouTube channel for diehard Bengals fans. I'm your host, Ace Boogie. If you haven't subscribed, be sure to subscribe. We'll have news and updates here for you. Today, I want to talk about a guy that you guys have been asking about, which is Aaron Colvin, a cornerback who is formerly of the Houston Texans. And before that, he was part of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So according to Colvin's draft profile, he's a long, smart, tough zone corner whose body isn't built to withhold or withstand heavy contact. But he was an excellent slot corner for the Jacksonville Jaguars from 2014 until 2017. But he was then signed in Houston in free agency to a $34 million deal with 4 years. But he kind of struggled in that first year in Houston with a lot of injuries, and he was even demoted all the way to special teams, and it got pretty ugly because he was a healthy and active in the Texans' postseason loss against the Colts last year. So this is a guy who is only 27. He's shown a lot of promise in Jacksonville. Like when he was in Jacksonville, he was a very good slot corner, and a lot of people who are writing in are assuming that that's the guy that they're getting. Now, I don't know if there was a, system. It was a system fit that was caused for the issues in Houston. But this was a guy who allowed 2 touchdown passes and a long reception, basically a game-winning reception to Ted Ginn that led to the game-winning field goal. PFF graded this guy after that game as I think a 29. So that is completely horrible. That's Tony McRae territory during the preseason. He was targeted 9 times. 8 of those were caught for 117 yards. So these are things that you have to keep in perspective. Although, you look at him and you might think about Jacksonville, you have to take into account his struggles in Houston. Now, with that being said, the Bengals' current cornerbacks are Drake Kirkpatrick, William Jackson III, B.W. Webb. Those are your starters. You've got Darius Phillips and Tony McRae. And then you've got Denard waiting in the wings. So it makes sense because he would be your third corner. So if he were to be signed by the Bengals, he could come in, and I would assume that he would still be behind B.W. Webb if they claimed him. The only issue with that is once Darqueze Denard comes back, that would mean that you would have a guy that is super benched on there in terms of Colvin, but it also would give you exceptional depth. So that's a positive. If you were to bring him into this room, you could get rid of Tony McRae. You could upgrade there. Even Aaron Colvin at his worst, he's probably still better than Tony McRae. He's also a guy that can play special teams as well. And he's a guy that you can depend on in a pinch, I think. Now, if he can return to that 2017 form, I think that he would be a steal. Another thing boding well in his favor is that he was guaranteed $7.5 million this year, which was covered by the Texans. So according to my research and how these contracts work, even though he was released after the first year of a 4-year deal, it seems as if all of the guaranteed money would already be paid by Houston. If a team was to claim him or sign him, I'm not sure exactly what that price would be, but I would assume that it would be somewhat of a discounted rate. Now, depending on that, like being as the Bengals don't have to pay him $7.5 million, this would be a great move for them because it does not cost them a lot of money. And it could be a low risk, high reward kind of situation given what Lou Anarumo can possibly get out of him. I mean, B.W. Webb was a guy that was cut by several teams and has so far played very well. So I understand it. I get that he's only 27, But I just want us to have a little bit of buyers beware with this guy, given his recent history, given what happened on Monday night. But I can also see and understand why the Bengals would say, hey, I'd swap a Tony McRae out for Aaron Colvin. I totally get it. So we'll have to stay tuned here and see what happens when waivers process and see if the Bengals actually do, in a sense, put in a waiver claim for him. Now, I don't know what the process is for waiver claims as of now. I don't know if I know before the Bengals have lost out on a couple, and it was due to the reverse standings of last year. Now that it's a new season, I'm not sure if it goes by the reverse standings of everything right now. Being that they went 0-1 this week, that could bode well in their favor. So if anything happens, if there's a signing or anything, be sure to check back here. I'll give my analysis. But those are my thoughts. In terms of whether I think that the Bengals should sign Aaron Colvin, I think that you might as well do it. I mean, why not bring in a guy that has some experience? Why not bring in a guy that flashed in 2017 and he's only 27? So with the right coaching staff and the right scheme, he could return to that. That doesn't mean that we'll hold on to him forever, but we'll have to see what that low risk, high reward potential could be. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. And as usual, I'll leave you with a who day all day, every day, and especially on Sunday.